So, I'm currently reading The Shadows by Alex North, and I kid you not, it is so creepy. Like, so creepy. It's giving me the chills all over. And I mean really badly. It's daytime. My Hoover's just fallen over, and I've just shat myself. For no good reason. Because it scared the living hell out of me. With me reading this book. It's a follow-on to The Whisper Man. Well, it's supposed to be. I wouldn't say it's a follow-on. The two standalones. It does have a few references here and there to The Whisper Man. It's the same author. There is one referring character, which is Amanda DeBeck, who's a DI. She's a DI officer who's also investigating murders. And that's another link to both books. The Whisper Man was based on children getting killed. However, in The Whisper Man, it was an adult that was doing the murders. In The Shadows, it's children that are doing the murders. In Whisper Man, if you heard whispers at your door, you was going to be next to get killed by the serial killer that was going around at that time. In this, if you had a dream, if you fell asleep and you had a dream, there was multiple people there. Like, if you and your friend was dreaming and you tried lucid dreams, which is where you dream together, and you wake up and you're both in the same dream, there was a sacrifice you had to do, and you could permanently stay in the dream world, but you had to make that sacrifice to the Shadow Man. And this is weird. Like, it's just so weird. So weird, but it's so good. If you go into this book, if you've read The Whisper Man and you want to read this, but you're unsure, I assure you it is not a follow-on to The Whisper Man. So if you go in with this with like a fresh mind, you've just read The Whisper Man, right, I'll read this one. It's another novel of Alex North. That's how you need to see it. It's just another novel. There is a few references, like I've said, to The Whisper Man, but it's not a follow-on. It's a standalone. And I tell you what, The Whisper Man was just, for me, it was like a crime thriller. This one is pure horror. Like, I am not kidding. There's crime and thriller in it, but it's crime and thriller as well. It depends how creeped out you get. I don't really read horror movies, so for me, no, I don't really read horror books. So for me, this is creepy as fuck, but anyone could quite easily go into this and think it's fine and think that I'm pathetic and I'm overreacting and that it's not really that creepy. But everyone's different in the reading experiences, and to me, this is classed as a horror, and it will always be classed as a horror, and it is giving me the chills. Last night, I read it until 10 o'clock at night. I started it yesterday. I started it at 4, read it until 10, read half of the book, and I had to stop because of how it was describing a scene in the book. There's 4 different scenarios in the book. If you've read The Whisper Man, you'll know that each chapter was a different character, or it's explaining a different scenario. You was either in the past, the present, the future, or whatever. Well, not the future, but you know what I mean. If you've read it, you'll know what I mean. And this is pretty much laid out the same way. You have the past, you've got the present. So you've got 2 different sides of the chapters. The good thing is with this, it tells you if you're in the past and in the beginning of your chapter. Like, for instance, chapter 17 will say then, and then chapter 18 will say now. And then you've got 2 different sides of the stories as well. So you've got the past and the present. You've got Paul, I think he's called Paul Adams. Yeah, you've got Paul Adams, who's one of the main characters in the book, and then you've got Amanda DeBeck, who's the detective. The past goes back to when Paul, sorry, I'm getting too excited about saying it. But the past goes back to when Paul was a child and there were murders. His best friend died because a group of his friends that he was in tried to do that Lucifer dream and given a sacrifice. However, the sacrifice was his best friend. Paul got arrested for that, and but later on, Billy, who actually killed him, there was 2 of them. There was Billy and Charlie. Billy ended up getting found because the dream didn't work. He didn't fully make a sacrifice. He didn't believe it enough for him to be able to stay in the dream world. Whereas with Charlie, it actually worked. And still to this day, 25 years later, which is the present, he's still missing. But Paul thinks he's alive, and he thinks that he's in the woods behind his house that he's now in. Paul did it after what happened with the kid. Like, that's the past part in the book that it explains. It goes into the past, and it's explaining what happened when he was a kid and what events took place to lead up to James dying, his best friend. The present, however, his mother's just died, so he's had to come back to the area that he lived. It is close to Featherbank, which was Featherbank, whatever. Oh, I don't know what they called it. I'm certain it was Featherbank in the book for Whisper Man. It's a couple of streets down from that, so it is close to that, and it's 2 years after what happened in the Whisper Man, and it's explaining what there's more murders going on now. Like, kids are dying again, and kids are killing each other again through to dreams, and they're keeping dream journals, and they're finding red handprints all over, which is from the Red Man, Shadow Man, whatever he were called. And it's just fucking weird. It's really weird. And I tell you what, it's giving me the creeps. It is full on giving me the creeps. I just can't get over it. I've never read a book so creepy. Like I said, I aren't usually a horror book reader. I very rarely read horror books. I tried to read It from Stephen King, which I know that's like, oh, it's a cliche. Everybody reads that. But I'm scared of clowns. And the movie intrigued me, but I'm scared of clowns, so I didn't think I could be able to watch it. So I tried reading the book. I got told the book wasn't as bad. Described The Crown, shit myself, put it down. Never read a horror book since. Till I found these two, and I quite like them. Like, The Whisper Man were brilliant. I loved that. It was brilliant. The ending was spot on. Everything got concluded. And I have a feeling this is going to get ended kind of the same way, where everything got concluded. But it's just such a good book. And like I said, if you like this kind of thing, you're going to love it. Just, if you've read The Whisper Man, don't go in with high expectations thinking it's going to be about The Whisper Man, because it's not. It's nothing like it. It is a standalone. You could quite easily not have read The Whisper Man and go into this. You might be confused with the certain references that they make for what happened 2 years later. Like, that's the only thing that it mentions about it. And it's on the first chapter to do with Amanda, that her career plummeted after what happened 2 years ago. And she can't think properly. How she thinks as a police officer has changed because of what happened. So the only thing you'll have is, well, what happened 2 years ago? That is the only time you will wonder if there's another book. And there is. That is the only time. After that first chapter with Amanda, it goes straight into this book. And you don't hear many references to it at all. You have another chapter with Paul where he knows 2 years ago there was certain murders that were going on in Featherbank, and that's where the boys were found this time. Like, in the present, the boys that murdered each other, that's where they were found, in Featherbank, and it was in the same place the little boy died, in the Whisperman. And that's the second reference that they make to the Whisperman, and that's it. Other than that, nothing else refers to it. So you could quite easily not have read The Whisper Man, and you could quite easily go straight into this, and you'll just twice through 2 chapters will wonder what happened, and if there's another book. That is it. So realistically, you don't need to have read it, because this is wholly different. So different. Like I said, there's only one returning character from The Whisper Man, and that's the same DI officer, investigator, who's investigating all the crimes, just like she did back then. She's doing the same ones here, and it's creeping her out. She's sick of seeing kids die. But wholeheartedly would recommend it. And I haven't even finished all of it yet. Like, look, I'm halfway. I've read a few chapters this morning. Shat myself because the Hoover's just fallen over last time I read it. But yeah, overall, good book. Would recommend.